Guys, it is your girl Miranda and I'm back with another video, and I have another message for you guys. And I was having conversation with Heavenly Father, and this kind of relates to one of the last messages that I did, and you'll know if this message is for you. So always, you guys take it back to God. Make sure you ask him, is this for you? And you'll know, because he'll give you confirmation. But I was having a conversation with him, and I was like, God, why is it that, a lot of the times the things that we want the most, why is it that it seems like those are the things that you take a little bit longer to give your children? Like, you knew, and he gave me this example and analogy. Abraham and Sarah wanted to have a child, and it took until they were like in their 90s, over 100 years old, in order for them to have the child that they, always wanted. And, because of them wanting and hoping and praying, they started to kind of lose faith in a way. We know that Abraham was faithful. He is, the forefather. And, he trusted God. He really did trust God. He loved God. And he was obedient to God. And he prayed on behalf of others, like his cousin Lot, his nephew Lot. And, he, was a servant. He was a good uncle. He took care of his nephew. He led him. He guided him. And he just wanted to one day have his own son. Just one day. And so I'm like, God, why does it seem like the things that we ask you for, that we want the most, are the things that normally take the longest and the hardest? And, people will go through things their whole entire lives not getting what it is that, they ultimately want and need. I mean, they'll get it, but it'll come with long suffering, which we understand and know that that's like a part of, being a follower of Christ, is us enduring through long suffering so that God can see that we trust him. And, even Abraham, his faith was tested and his trust was tested as well when Heavenly Father told him to take his son up to the mountain and to offer him as a sacrifice, to see if he loved his son more than he loved Heavenly Father. And he passed, and he did what he wanted him to do, and ultimately he didn't have to sacrifice, his son. But basically what Heavenly Father spoke to me is that he will allow us to endure and go through multiple different tests and trials and tribulations in our life in order to make sure that what it is that we're asking him for doesn't have us. And that doesn't have to always be monetary wise. It doesn't just have to be money. It could be a child. It could be, a spiritual gift. It could be a talent. It can be, it could be something physical. It could be a character trait, which, I wouldn't say that he typically takes long with that, but God does everything in his perfect timing. And so God will often teach us, lead us, and guide us, and direct us, and shape us in order to make sure that when he gives us those things, that it doesn't have us. And so, a lot of the times he will strip us from certain things in our lives in order to sustain us and for us to really depend on him and trust in him. And then he told me, he said, you cannot be independent and dependent. Again, I repeat, you cannot be independent and dependent. If you're independent with an I, there's no I. Just like there's no I in team, there's no I in dependent. So when you are a dependent, you are a child. So you depend on your father and your mother. But when you are independent, you think that it's you doing a work of the things going on inside of you and in your life instead of dependent on the Lord. And then he told me, this goes along with, ladies, women who are looking to be married and wanting to have your kingdom spouse. Like, you have to be willing, just like you have to be dependent on God, you also have to be dependent on your spouse. You have to be dependent on your husband. And I'm not saying that husbands have to, not be independent, but there's certain things that we are, supposed to depend on, God first, but also trust in the Lord. And then that's what he told me. He took me to Proverbs 3, 5 of 6. And he said, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all of your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path. And so, he showed me this, and he told me, he was like, in order for you to trust me, you have to be dependent on me. And a lot of the time, it's really hard for us to trust because we've gone through so much in our lives and so many trials, so many tribulations, so many different things. So when trust is broken, it's hard to gain that trust back. And so it's like you have to look, or some people, who have been hurt, who have these things going on, they look through the lens of that broken trust. They're looking through the lens of what happened to them. They're looking through the lens of not wanting the same thing to happen. They're looking through the lens of that hurt. They're looking through the lens of that pain. They're looking through the lens of the things that didn't go right, instead of trusting fully in God. Even though things are not going right, I'm still going to trust you, because that is the plan of the enemy. He wants you to believe, and he wants you to think that although they trust God, I can get them to not trust God. I can get them to not be dependent on God, because the way that I can do that is by allowing everything to go wrong in their life. But God says, I take what the enemy meant for evil and I turn it into good. And I will allow everything that the enemy is doing to help build the trust that they have for me. So although it may look like, it may seem like, it may feel like things are going wrong, I can turn it around, because I work out all things for the good of those who love me. And so I know my child loves me, and I'm going to use this to build the trust that they have in me to do a thing, to show them I'm still in control. I'm Alpha. I'm Omega. And because I am Alpha, because I am Omega, because I work out all things for the good of those who love me and who trust me according to my will and my purpose and my plan, I will make sure that all things work out for them. And so I don't know who this message is for, but I pray it blesses you. I love you guys. Be blessed, and I'll be back with another video, Elohim willing. Bye, guys.